Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ignorant Intellectual. Today, I thought we'd take a break from a mixed haul or thrift store hauls that I've been doing lately, and other things, and talk about the the art of collecting itself, the fun of doing it. I've lately I've been watching a lot of videos, and many of the people that usually do regular videos on movie collecting. All right, I'm not just exclusively a movie collector, but they are, and they seem to be coming up against some anxiety, some stress about their collection, right? Whether it's becoming too large and it's unmanageable, or they're spending too much money, or they're worried about this steelbook or that steelbook, and whether they should get it, and are they going to miss out on it? Is it going to sell out and then they won't be able to get it? And all these. Anyways, there's been a bunch of videos on YouTube about this issue, how their hobby is stressing them out. Now, this occurs, I think, probably to most collectors, whatever they collect. Right? It could be anything. It happened to me, and I had to end up leaving what I was doing, and I went from collecting sports cards to end up, making a library, like a book library. That was my next goal, because I was collecting. I still occasionally do it, but not as much now as I used to. But I was like a diehard baseball card collector, and I understand the feelings that these movie collectors are having this stress, right? So because I mean I'm not sure if you're familiar with sports cards, but like back in the I started collecting like serious collecting probably in the early 90s, right? So the first real big set that I collected was the 1992 Fleer baseball set. Um, and then I kind of went back and forth. But basically, I used to collect when I was a kid, but it was hockey cards. And then I became a fan of baseball, and I collect baseball cards. And with Upper Deck's entry into the sports card industry back in 1989, it changed the whole aspect of baseball card collecting. You used to be able to collect a set. Maybe there was one, two, maybe even three sets per year that you would collect. And the main point of collecting it was either to get your favorite players' cards, or maybe you collect the whole set. You're like a like a set collector where you collect all numbers from one to whatever the numbers. O-Pee-Chee here in Canada, usually it was around 350 cards or so. If you're doing the top set, it would be like 716 or somewhere around there, 690 something or whatever, right? So then you would go about buying the packs or whatever, and you try to build your collection and finish the whole collection. And the few months that it takes you to do it, um, then there's a bit of a break, and then the next year's cards come out, right? And then you do the same thing over, and it was quite fun to do, right? But then like I said, Upper Deck entered the hobby, and they upgraded the sports card industry, where you had really nice premium looking cards, and then the other card companies followed suit, and then you end up having an expansion of maybe there was 3 or 4 sets per year to 8 sets to 12 sets, and then they started having these specialty cards, and then they had these limited edition cards and everything else, and the whole industry just ballooned up, right? And by the for me, by the end of the 90s, um, I was out. It was I like to build sets. I like to and I even had fun making master sets. Where you collect the era cards, and every once in a while you'd have like an insert card that you'd collect or whatever, and maybe a signature card, and go about trying to finish those. I mean, you did spend an extra amount of money to do that, but you'd like to have. It was fun to collect every card. Let's say the Fleer 1990 set or whatever, like every card. And if there was an era card, you pick up the era card and all that, and you'd have, the complete master set, and then you'd move on to the next set that you would want to collect, right? So, but with the balloon in the industry in the 90s, it just went nuts. When Upper Deck came in, then within a few years, Topps had, Stadium Club, Fleer had Fleer Ultra, anyways, it went. They had like two different tiers of baseball cards sets, and then it went 3, and it went 4, from all the different, it became unmanageable. You would have to be spending, thousands and thousands of dollars, uh, and an immense amount of time if you ever wanted to really finish any set, right? Um, and a lot of sets ended up becoming out of reach for the average baseball card collector. See, that's the only thing that I dislike about hobbies is when money enters the hobby. You have a simple hobby of something like back in the 80s, you could collect, let's say, one of the collector cards that people always wanted to get was the 52 Topps Mickey Mantle card, right? Well, back in the early 80s, you could pick it up for a few $100s. I mean, it might have not been mint or anything, but it was like a few $100s. You could pick up a Mickey Mantle 52 um, Topps card, right? And now the higher end of those cards is selling in the hundreds, thousands, even millions of dollars. What happens is there's like there's an interest in it for some reason. Then you have all this money go into the hobby, and it just fucking ruins it. All right, basically everything just starts to skyrocket upwards, and like now they're making sets where they have one of one unique cards, right? And they're basically creating scarcity through printing, not through time, right? The reason why, let's say, the Honus Wagner T206 card is so sought after is because it was like there's not very many of them. It's rare, right? So, but it became rare over time because of time, right? But now they're manufacturing this scarcity, right? So it's if it was really hard to figure out which cards were cool to have or whatever, right? Like it was, and if you wanted them, sometimes you have to spend thousands of dollars. I mean, right out of the package, you'd be spending $800 on a card. You know what I mean? Um, so, so what ended up happening is it ended up becoming gambling rather than card collecting. You'd buy a box of cards, and some people would buy a case of cards just to try to get that one card that they could sell on eBay for like 10 grand or something, you know what I mean, or 20 or $50,000 or whatever, right? Because it's like I said, it's printed scarcity. It's just, the cards are automatically scarce once they come into the package, right? So, but it used to be, you used to know which cards that you wanted to collect. Let's say you wanted to do a Hall of Fame set of rookie cards or whatever, or first cards of players. You knew which cards to collect because there's just one card, or maybe there's a couple of cards or whatever that you may collect from, like like I said before, like the 52 Topps Mantle card. Like if you were making a collection, that would be one of the cards that you would want to have, right? So, but now, like every year, let's say, like Derek Jeter. I mean, he's an older player now, but Derek Jeter, I don't know how many rookie cards he has, and how many short print cards he has, and which ones are, the most sought after, right? It's like you got to, you got to have a rocket scientist brain just to figure it all out, right? And it became more like work than it was fun, right? And so what happened is people just exited the hobby, right? So many people just left sports cards. It was a big bubble in the 90s, and then it just exploded, and everybody left. And now, you still have some people that collect sports cards. I mean, there's still, a good audience, a good collector base for sports cards. But now, like where you used to go, you could buy like a 36 pack set for, under $20-$30. Now you're lucky if you can get it for like 80 or 90, or and the higher end sets sometimes. I mean, there's some sets that are like in the thousands of dollars, right? So you'll never have access to them, and that's the thing that kills the industry, is when manufacturers create things that are out of reach of the average person, right? And that's what I mean by money always ruins a hobby for a person that doesn't have it, anyways, especially a person that only has, a limited budget or whatever, right? Once money enters a hobby, it just ruins it. Basically, it just destroys it. Basically, for your average person, where you used to be able to, maybe you'd save up your salary for like 3 or 4 months. You could buy a Mantle card. Now you have to win the lottery just to afford one, right? So. it became ridiculous. So I know, and if you take that same mentality and you switch it over to, you're seeing it happening now in the movie industry. Basically, many of the movie companies aren't putting out their stuff. So you have these boutique labels putting out them instead, and instead of putting something out at a reasonable price of maybe $15, $20 or something for a Blu-ray, they're making a big nice editions and they're selling them for like $60, $80, right? So you're seeing the money enter the hobby, right? Enter the collecting sphere. You're seeing the money enter, and you get some really cool stuff, but you have to have the pocket to be able to afford it. And soon stuff is going to be out of a price range for you to be able to purchase it, right? Um, I mean, they're even putting scarcity in some of them. Like you have some like a company will announce that they're putting out a certain movie, but there's only going to be 5,000 copies of it. You know what I mean? It's like, I mean, you can understand it in something like baseball cards, where once you make it, that's it. I mean, you can do reprints, but those reprints don't count. You understand? But with movies, you can always put out a movie, and it's still the same movie. You understand? So it makes the scarcity kind of stupid, right? I mean, there is no scarcity in movies except for, if it came out on a VHS, but then it didn't get a Blu-ray edition or it didn't get a DVD edition, you only have the VHS copy. Maybe that VHS copy, depending on what film it is, I mean, if there's no popularity of the film and nobody wants it, it doesn't matter. If it's scarce, it's not worth anything, right? People have to want it, right? So there are certain items that are still on VHS that haven't got a DVD or a Blu-ray um, come out of it, right? And there's some movies on DVD, right, that haven't come out on Blu-ray, right? So these movies, you may get a premium, but the problem with it is, unlike, let's say, a sports card or whatever, right, where if you get that sports card, that if somebody makes a reprint of that sports card, it doesn't matter, that reprint isn't going to be worth crap, right? Do you understand what I mean? It's the original one that everyone wants. But when it comes to a movie, you don't care when the movie came out for public watching. In fact, you don't want the older version. You want the newest version of it. So it's kind of like the opposite from sports card collecting. It's the opposite of it, right? It's because, if you have a DVD of it and they come out with a nice Blu-ray, you're going to pick up the Blu-ray because it's nicer to watch, right? Has better sound. And then if it comes out on a 4K and it's a nice 4K, you'll pick that up because it's better, visually and orally, better to watch and listen to, right? So it's always the latest one that is the one that you want, not the earliest one like it is in sports cards. So when it's like they're shooting themselves in the foot. They're putting out a movie that may be popular enough that they could sell like 20,000 of them, and they just put out 5,000 to make some sort of scarcity. You know what I mean? And it's a stupid way of thinking when it comes to movies, because, like I said, it's the latest movie version of it that you want, not the earliest version, right? I mean, you can watch it on DVD, but if you watch it on Blu-ray, wow, that's so much better experience. Watch it on 4K, even better experience, kind of thing. So you always want something later. But what you do see is all the boutique labels have entered the market, and now they're producing like really nice editions where it's actually the packaging that you're paying for, not the actual movie, right? So you have like one company will put out the Blu-ray of it, a really nice edition of a Blu-ray, and then another company will get the get the rights to it, and then they'll put out a nice 4K of it, right? So there's always improvements, but you want the more latest. I mean, 4K is still, some people aren't. You have to buy another TV, you have to buy another player and everything. It's quite expensive. If you want to listen to the sound like Dolby Atmos or whatever, then you're going to need some nice speakers for it and everything. So you're going to spend a pretty penny on it. But I mean, if it's your hobby and you really want to enjoy it and you have the money, then yeah, go ahead, right? So, but the problem is that, let's say you want to make a collection of all the movies that you like, or you want to make a collection of all the movies that you like, that you watched, and you want to have a copy of, but then you want to also collect all the great movies that you haven't seen yet so that you can watch them as well. Well, what you're doing is you're basically creating a library, all right? You're creating an archive of film, all right? So imagine if every one of your films you got to pay like 60, 80, $100 for. How many films are you going to be able to get? Do you understand what I mean? So it's like the expense of it is kind of, when the boutique labels entered the market, prices went up, right? So, I mean, you can look for sales. You know, you have the Criterion sales at Barnes and Noble in the United States. It's not up here in Canada, but there's a website called Unobstructed View that you can get Criterion's. They don't do 50%, they do 35% when the Barnes and Noble sale goes on. They put a sale on as well. It's 35%, not 50%, but anyways. But people are under stress. They're under stress about spending all this money. So the main ideas that I've seen from all the different videos that I've watched about people being stressed about the hobby, it shouldn't stress you. It actually should relax you. Your hobby is what relaxes you from the stress of work. Do you understand what I mean? So if it becomes stressful, then you're not, you know, you're not doing it correctly, right? Basically, all right. So the main, I wrote down what seems to be the main problems with collecting for people these days. Number one is they've become so expensive, all right, when you're buying movies. Okay, so if you're a collector and you buy new items, for example, like Lionsgate Limited, they just put out a website that got like 7 or 8 films that they put out on Steelbook, right? And they're going for like $50, $60 American, right? I actually went on their site today just to see. It looks like they've reduced a lot of their prices. So like Kill Bill 1 and 2, those nice steelbooks, they were selling for $50 at one time. Now they're selling for $40 if you can get them. Apocalypse Now was originally $50. Now it's $40, but it's sold out, right? So imagine you're spending that amount of money on each one of the movies, and let's say you have 500 movies that you really enjoy watching, right? You know, maybe it's only 100. Well, let's say it's 100, and you're paying $50 each. That's $5,000 you're going to be spending just on your little library of movies that you really like to watch, right? That's a lot of money for items like that, right? So one thing was the expense, all right? So the next thing that people say a lot is they'll go out and they'll spend a good amount on a Blu-ray, let's say a nice Arrow edition of a Blu-ray, and it costs them $50, and then like within 6 months, Arrow puts out the 4K, or maybe Criterion puts out a 4K of it, and then you go, wow, it's like, now I got to do a double dip just to get the 4K, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? It irritates people when they buy the Blu-ray and then within a little while a 4K comes out and makes that Blu-ray, if they collect 4Ks as well, it makes the Blu-ray, you know, like wasted money that you spent, right? So that's another one. Another one is the stress of FOMO, fear of missing out. So one of the boutique labels says we're going to put out this nice edition of this, and we're only going to make 5,000 of them. So pre-order. And then you're like, okay, I want to pre-order, and then you pre-order it, and then it finally comes, and then there wasn't as much of an interest in it that everybody thought. So now they've got like a bunch left, so they discount it. So you spent like $80 on it, and now you see it on their website selling for $35 or something, right? You go, I just wasted a whole bunch of money. That's another thing that irritates people, right? So another thing is collecting has a lot to do with tactile, like touch, right? So I mean, half the reason why people collect movies is so that they have them in their collection, so that they can watch them whenever they want, because streaming services aren't, you know, guaranteed that you're going to be able to watch that movie, right? So, I mean, sometimes a movie will jump from one streaming service to another, and then you're canceling one service to go to another service, or maybe you have 3 services, and now it's going up 8, 10 services in order to watch the movies that you want to watch, and it's like, becomes cost prohibitive when you can just buy the movies that you want and then you have that library that you want. You can watch them at any time. So, but people, when they buy items, buying them online is like, if there's a race, it's a second or a third, right? You understand what I mean? It's not the first. The first thing is to actually go into a store and see the item that you want to get, pick it up, look at it, and say, okay, I think it's worth it, and then go buy it, right? When you see it online, they show pictures or whatever, but you don't really see the item, touch it or whatever, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. So it distances you from your collecting, right? So it's like you don't know until it arrives. So there's an excitement when you go, let's say, to a shelf at Best Buy or whatever, and you see the newest thing, you pick it up, you go, oh, cool, and then you got it, and then you go buy it, right? It's different when you do it online. Then you got to wait for a week or 2 or 3 weeks or whatever, or 6 weeks for it to come, right? And then you're on to the next thing. So you're basically buying things and then not getting them, and then moving on to the next thing you want to buy and buying that, and then maybe after the 25th thing that you've bought, the first thing that you bought comes in, and you've already passed the excitement of that, and then you pick it up, and it's not as exciting, right? You like to have it to be instantaneous, not a delay, right? So, but that's what the industry has moved to. You're going to be ordering most of your stuff online, right? Okay, so that's another thing that's irritating. Not being able to collect the films in like a brick and mortar shop or whatever, right? In Canada, there's only one really. I mean, you have some independents here or there, like where I am. There's the chain, which is called Sunrise Records. It has LPs, it has CDs, and has movies and DVDs and Blu-rays, and it has sections for the boutique cinema labels as well, right? So it's called Sunrise Records in Canada. In online, there's only really one Canadian distributor of boutique label cinema stuff, and that's Unobstructed View, unless you go through Amazon or whatever, right? So that's it. So because if you go on Criterion or if you go on Arrow Video, you're always looking at American pricing, and then you have the shipping, and then you have it's got to cross the border. You know what I mean? So you never know exactly how much you're paying. All right, it may say $39.99 on the website, but by the time it's in your possession, you may have spent $80, right? So the only distributor that I've found in Canada, other than going into a Sunrise Records, is Unobstructed View, it's called, and basically it's in Canada, so it's all Canadian pricing. Whatever the shipping is, it's in Canadian shipping. You know exactly how much you're going to be paying, right? So it is kind of, it's irritating because most of the things that Canadians collect is American stuff. So it's like the Americans have an advantage because they're in the country where it's being produced, right? There is no cross-border stuff that you have to deal with and everything, right? So it's not as tactile and it's not as fun to collect things on your computer than it would be actually to go in the store. So I found, now I don't suffer from any of these problems, okay? I did with baseball cards, but once I gave that up, I said, whatever hobby I'm going to have, I'm not going to do it in the way that I did it before, which was, you're always worried about how much money you're spending, right? Because you have a budget. You're always, with me, like I said, I like to collect sets, and it was like, there's so many sets that you can collect, and then you try to collect them, and then they have these, it went into like, you get the same card, but because it has a black border or a gray border or a yellow border, or it's the same card but it has a different border, and because it's a different border, the regular set, maybe there's 10,000 of each one of them, and then you get up to, let's say, like a gold or a platinum border, that it's a one of one of that. You know what I mean? So it's like, every time you buy a box of baseball cards or whatever, you get a whole bunch of cards that, it's like, well, if I wanted to collect this mini set within this set, I'm going to have to buy like three crates of the stuff in order to even have a chance to get it. You know what I mean? So it was like, now. So I will still occasionally pick up a box of baseball cards, just open them up and see or whatever. But most of the stuff you're going to be doing is online, right? So it's not as fun as going to like a brick and mortar store. So, but like I said, I don't have any of those stresses anymore because I've come up with a way of collecting that is basically stress free. All right. But there's a couple of things that you have to do that some people may have difficulty doing. All right. But if you can do them, you're gonna have a great movie library. You're gonna spend very little money, if any. All right, depending on whether you want to do a bit of work or not. All right. But what you're gonna do is you're gonna have a great library, and you're not gonna have to worry about your budget. You're not gonna have to worry about missing out on stuff. All right, because you don't. One of the secrets of it is okay. So let's go through what I do, and then you'll understand what I mean. One thing you got to put aside, and this is the biggest caveat of the way that I collect. All right, if you look behind me, all right, I have a whole basement full of stuff. 50 to 60% of it is well, maybe 35% of it is boutique stuff. A bunch of it is older DVDs. Then you have the regular Blu-rays, but I have a large collection of steelbooks. I have a large collection of like boutique cinema stuff. Like for example, in Criterion, I have over 500 of the Criterions. All that, and all collected and all within my budget. All right, and you can do the same thing if you wish to do it. But like I said, you got to get out of the way that you're thinking and collect in a different way, and you'll still end up having a great library. I don't know if I can show you it. I might screw up where the camera is, but you can see just behind me. Well, this section, I'll triple it, and that's quadruple it. And that's how many movies I have, about 6,000 movies. And, I don't think I've paid more than maybe like $25 for any one movie. All right. I mean, occasionally I will splurge and buy something new, but usually I don't. All right. So here's the secret of collecting without having to be stressed. Number one is you got to get rid of the idea of having something right away. All right. If you can be patient and not get it right away and buy it new, that's the secret number one of your budget is you're going to buy everything used. You're not going to buy it new. You're going to buy it used because the difference between something used and something new, for example. All right. So here's Arrow Video's 6 Gothic Tales. All the well, most of them. I think there's one movie missing of all the Vincent Price movies. All right. So Arrow put out a nice hard box set for this. Comes in 3. There's like 2 movies per of the 3 cases. So there's 6 films, right? This I think was like $50 or $60 new. Well, I got this for like $15. All right. Okay. So, and perfectly good. The person watched it. I guess they didn't like it, and they decided to sell it in the secondary market. I found it, and I bought it. All right. So, as long as you don't want something right away, and once it comes out, if you want it that way, you're going to be paying the highest price of anybody that's collecting anything. All right. You're going to be paying, and if you have that money, you should do it because that's the funnest way to do it. But if you have a budget and you're doing it that way, it's going to stress you out. So what I do is I wait to find things used, and they always end up coming up. All right. I was looking for what's another good one. I was looking for this one, this nice Arrow box set. All right. Of Last House on the Left. I don't know how much this was when it first came out. Was it $40, $50? All right. $60. Anyways, I found it for like $10. All right. So still has the booklet, still has the poster, still has the movie. Really nice. All right. And then I bought this one off the same guy. So Last House on the Left and The Hills Have Eyes. Both nice Arrow box sets, right? And I got them for under $20. All right. So if you wait, you'll be able to find it. But the time that you're going to be spending on your hobby is the time that is what you enjoy in the first place, which was to go out and look in stores and everything else, right? So you're going to do some online stuff, looking on Facebook Marketplace in the States. In Canada, we have something that's called Kijiji as well. So, and it's just online used, it's like what used to be like garage sales, right? So it saves you a lot of time. You don't have to go around to the garage sales and not know what's at the garage sales. It's kind of like a hit and miss doing it that way. So online, you can find this stuff used online. All right. So, and you're always uh, coming around to stuff. You know what I mean? What would be another good example here? Here, I found this for $10. This Almost Famous, perfectly new steelbook of Almost Famous. I don't know if you like that film or not, but I liked it. All right. Um, it's never ending. Found this nice Arrow steelbook of Shivers. It's like $20 if I remember correctly. All right. And it just goes on and on. All right. So um, the biggest score I ever did was a gentleman died and he left his house and his movie collection to his two godsons. And his godsons already have houses and have kids and everything. So they wanted to flip the house, but they wanted to get rid of all the contents inside the house. So I went over there and I got 2,000 boutique cinema labels, like 400 Criterions, a bunch of Masters of Cinema, a bunch of Indicator films, a bunch of, the gentleman really liked early French and American cinema, and so he had, like, you name the film, he had it, from anything starting from the beginnings of cinema up to like the 1950s, 1960s started thinning out, 1970s it really thinned out, but from like the beginning of cinema to like the 1950s, I mean, he had so much stuff that it took me 2 trips in my SUV full of boxes of stuff to bring it all, and it cost me $800. All right, so basically, I got about 2,000 films for like $800. So you do the math. It was like I was picking up Criterions for less than $1 each, right? Now, is that going to happen all the time? No, but I've come across that numerous times. All right, I picked up a Blu-ray collection of like 500 films for like $150. I basically bought it more to resell than it was to keep. I kept some of it, maybe like 20% of it, and the rest I just resold, right? And sold them all for like $4 or $5 each, and took that money and bought other stuff that I wanted to add to my collection, right? So, but basically, you need to buy used. Number one, not buy new. Don't get it when it originally comes out, because there's nothing that irritates me more as if I ended up, let's say, going. Let's see here. What should we do? All right, how about this one? The Thing, another nice Arrow edition of The Thing. All right, it's like $50 new or whatever, 60 probably in Canada, and I found this for, I think it was like $15. All right, but I bought a whole bunch of stuff to get this to be $15. All right, but imagine if I bought that new for 60, and then I found this in my travels. All right, for like $15, and went, crap, I just spent like $45 for no reason, right? So that always irritated me, right? Because I don't have a ton of money, right? I could spend like hundreds of dollars every month on my collecting, but then I wouldn't have a wife, I wouldn't have a kid, I wouldn't have kids, I wouldn't have a mortgage for a house or whatever, I wouldn't have a car, right? I'd be spending it all on movies or whatever, right? So so I have to budget it. In fact, all the stuff that you see, even though I paid for it because I sold other stuff. All right. So actually, all this stuff isn't costing me any money at all, really. Okay. So basically, number one is, like I said, you need to take a step back and not buy anything new. Maybe you go on Arrows, maybe hear the next Criterion thing. The last time I got excited with Criterion was when they came out with Exotica, and I'm like, I really want that film, but then I looked at it and it would be like $60 by the time I imported it from Criterion, right? I eventually ended up getting it as a gift, as a Christmas present. So I didn't have to pay for it, but I got it, right? So, um, but I would never have paid like $60 for a Criterion film. No, imagine there's like 1,200 of them. Imagine if you're paying $50, $60 for every one of them. My God, that's like tens of thousands of dollars you'd be paying, right? So, I mean, if you have that type of money, all the more power to you, all right? But I don't, right? So if you want to collect and have a really, really nice library of films, but not stress yourself out um, because of money, it's so expensive, then you need to buy everything used rather than buy it new, all right? What you're doing is waiting for other people to buy it, and then they buy it, they watch it, and they don't like it, and then they sell it. There's always people that do that, all right? There's like 5 people in my area that I've probably bought maybe 800 or 900 films off of, and I'm getting them for like half price or more of what they were new, right? So so they would spend the money because they want it right away. They watch it, they go, this movie was supposed to be good, but I don't like it, so they don't keep it, right? So they spent $60 on that movie, and then they sell it for like 30 or whatever, right? And then maybe I buy a bunch of stuff, and I get it talked down to 20 or 25 or whatever, right? Or 15, depending on what, right? Um, so that's number one. Number one is don't buy anything new. Don't go skimming around on online and going into places that that if you see something that's new, you're going to buy it because like it defeats the purpose. All right. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at the Facebook marketplaces. You're going to go around to thrift stores. All right. There was one thrift store I went into and I found, I think it was 12 Criterions. Now they were all DVDs, not Blu-rays, but of those 12, 3 of them were never put out on Blu-ray. So they've only had DVD releases, all right? And if you collect the Criterion collection and you want to have every film, you're going to have DVDs in your collection with it, right? And I found like 12 of them, all right? So I think 7 of them I kept because I didn't have in my collection, and 5 of them I resold. And the amount that I resold them for not only paid for the ones that I kept, but also gave me an extra like $30, $40 to spend, all right? So if you don't want to spend any money on your collection, all right, then this is what you're going to do, all right? So because you're already going around, you're searching on Facebook Marketplace and other places, and you're going to the thrift stores, you're going to come across stuff that maybe you already have, but it's a collectible item. You're going to buy it anyways, all right? So for me, it seems to be mostly books. Books, I know a lot about books. I worked in a bookstore for a few years. I've read like thousands of books in my life. I got really into music at one time, got really into baseball cards and another time. Then I got really into reading, and for like 15, 20 years, I was reading like a book a week, right? Maybe 2 weeks, depending on how thick the book was, right? And until my eyesight started going, then I stopped, and then I kind of moved into movies instead, right? Anyway, so you're going to come across, so maybe you go into a thrift store and you find, some films, some Blu-rays, that sell well, or maybe you find some CDs. What happens with me usually it's books. I go around thrift stores, I find a book for maybe $2 or $3, sometimes $1. All right, and then I know it's a nice copy, and I bring it home. And new, it sold at 20, so maybe I'll sell it for $6 or $8 online. I'll put an ad up, and somebody will buy it. So I spent $2 on it, get $8 for it. That $6 is what I use to buy more stuff to resell and stuff to add to my collection. All right. So I splurged the other day because I sold like a couple $100 of stuff. All right. This person really liked my library, so he bought like 30 or 40 books off me. So I ended up buying this. So this is a severed issue of Morrissey's Blood for Dracula. It's one of my favorite horror films. It's almost like a comedy, though. And I spent like over $40 on that. But it didn't cost me anything because, like I said, I sold a bunch of books. And I may have spent like $40 on those books, but I got like $180 for them, right? So that amount is what I use to collect all my films, right? And I collect LPs, I collect certain books, I collect CDs, I collect baseball cards. So there's always stuff that I'm collecting, right? So when I'm out looking for stuff, used stuff, all right, whether it's online on Facebook Marketplace or at the thrift stores. I'm always looking for stuff that I may not keep, but I know that I can resell because it's way underpriced, right? So maybe you're an expert in something else. Maybe it's in clothing, or maybe it's in something else that you can still go around and pick up stuff and know that you can sell it, right? So that's what I did. And basically, here's the last item I picked up at the thrift store for my own collection. That's Sylvia Tyson's Joiner's Dreams. Sylvia Tyson is a big name in Canadian folk music. I really like her and Ian, her brother's stuff. They're probably most famous for the song, what was that song? Four Strong Winds. Remember Four Strong Winds back in the 60s? Anyway, so I picked that CD up, cost me $2. But while I was there, I ended up finding this CD, all right, for $2. And this is Herbie Hancock's greatest jazz CD, and I can sell this for $4 or $5. All right, I found an early album of Elton John's, which can sell. I found a Kraftwerk album, Tour de France. I don't know if you know Kraftwerk, the German electronic band. They kind of invented electronic music, and it was this Tour de France is a really good CD, so for maybe $5 or whatever, right? You understand? So when you're going around looking for stuff to add to your own collection, you pick up stuff that you maybe already have in your collection, or maybe you don't want in your collection, but it can sell. And then what you do is you buy it if it's a reasonable price, and then you just put up an ad on Facebook Marketplace or whatever, and sell it for like 2 or 3 times of what you bought it for, and then that'll give you a little pile of money that you can buy items in your collection. Basically, I don't know, maybe I'll pick this up and I'll show you. All right, everything that I'm going to show you, I'm just going to sit here and show you. All right, everything that I'm going to show you didn't cost me anything. It just took a bit of work. All right, so there's a bunch of new albums. The Stooges' self-titled album, Love's Forever Changes, Marquee Moon, Can's Future Days. All right, so then now you look at all the collection, all the movies I have. Over there are books. All right, more collection even goes up into the stairwell. All right, like 6,000 movies. I didn't pay anything for any of them, right? I mean, I did buy them. All that are all my albums. I even bought a record player, this TV, that sound. What do you call those things? Sound bars. I bought that. I bought a Nintendo Switch for my son, right? Just from reselling stuff that I pick up that I'm not keeping, right? So, for example, here's Herbie Hancock's, like I said, his greatest album. Well, I already have it in my collection. It's right there, right? So I'll just resell this for $5, and I bought it for $2 or whatever, right? So, but books seem to be the best when it comes to me. I'll find books for, like I said, $1, $2, $3, and when they're sold new, they're like $20, $25. So you can put up the price to $6 to $8 and resell them pretty easily. Now you need to have some space to hold, because you're going to be like, you're going to be like a store basically. You're going to have inventory that you haven't sold, right? So you need space for that, right? But I just keep everything in the basement, yeah, it's thousands of dollars of stuff that didn't cost me anything, all right? So basically the secret is don't ever buy anything new, all right? Be patient. A lot of the stuff that you want to collect will eventually come into the secondary market, all right? Number 2 is spend time on Facebook Marketplace and in thrift stores and garage sales and estate sales and things like that. That's the fun of the hobby, right? So you can't go into a Best Buy anymore and find movies new, but you can go into a thrift store and find movies or books or other things used, all right? And sometimes you come, there's this one, the number, like I ended up finding like 8 or 9 Franklin Library, nice leather-bound editions, all right? I kept 2 of them and I sold 5 of them. I picked them up for like $4 each and I sold them for $25 each, and 25 is low because you can sell some Franklin Library leather-bound editions of nice classical literature for $40, $50, right? So, and I'm selling them for 25, but I'm picking them up for 4, right? So, um, and then you'll have a little amount of money that you can, that you can spend on items to add to your collection, right? So used, buy used, not new. Go around searching. That's half the fun, all right? Um, if you liked the brick and mortar stores, well, thrift stores are the same thing, right? Just used stuff, right? So, um, and if you really get ambitious and you don't mind spending the time putting up ads, then your collection can cost you absolutely nothing, right? I mean, you just have to have an eye on what can resell, because if you buy something and then it doesn't resell, then you're basically holding on to it for no reason, right? I mean, I'm not perfect. There is like, every few months I may have some items that I picked up that just aren't selling, so I'll just redonate them back to the thrift store, just to create more space for other stuff that I'm trying to sell. So it's hit and miss, but as you buy and sell stuff, you get an idea of what sells easily and what is a little bit more difficult to sell, and then maybe you'll avoid the difficult sales and just concentrate on the easy to sell stuff, and the turnover will be quick, and you'll end up having some money to get a collection. Now, is there anything wrong with anybody that buys anything new? Absolutely not. All right. And if you're one of the people that like to buy new, well, there's nothing stopping you from buying new and going around and doing exactly what I said. Maybe it'll cut the amount that you spend in half, right? Maybe there's some items that that you really need to have right away, right now, but then there's this item and this item that you want to have, but there's no rush in getting it. And then maybe when you go to the thrift store 6 months later, oh, there it is right there. You know what I mean? Or maybe you look on Facebook Marketplace and somebody's selling it. And so if you're paying $60 for it, you're paying 25 or something, right? So there's always that. So it doesn't. You can do it mixed ways, but I never fault anybody for buying anything new and really enjoying the hobby and collecting the movies that they want in whatever way they want to collect them. And if they buy new, all the more power. Without people buying new, I can't buy the thing used. You understand what I mean? Unless, like somebody goes out of business and then they just take their whole inventory and just give it to a thrift store or something. But usually what happens is somebody buys it new and then they don't want it anymore. And then that's where I come in and I get it used at a discount price, right? So however you want it. But like I said, all right. So what this does is basically it stops you from spending a ton of money on individual movies, right? And you have more money to do other things with, all right? As to if you buy the Blu-ray and then the 4K comes out and you say you just wasted money, well, the thing about when you buy something used is, let's say I find this Cadillac Man, all right? So this is quite a funny movie if you haven't seen it. I have it on a DVD. I found it for like $1. All right. So now I have it in my collection. All right. Let's say I find the Blu-ray. Well, I found the Blu-ray used, right? Okay. So now I buy the Blu-ray and go, well, I spent that $1 or $2 on Cadillac Man on DVD, and I just wasted the money. No, you didn't, because you're going to turn around and sell it, right? So you're going to get your money back for what you did, all right? So basically, maybe this won't be like an individual ad. Maybe it'll be an ad with like 10 other films, and you're going to sell all 10 of them for like $30 or something, you know what I mean, or $20, all right? And then you get your money back, right? So you're not losing any money when you buy this, all right? So, and then you have the Blu-ray. So now you have, let's say, the Blu-ray of the Recruit, and then it comes out on a 4K, all right? And you go, crap, I just spent like $25 on that Blu-ray, and now they've come out with a nice 4K for $40, whatever. Now you got to buy the 4K, and I just spent $25 for no reason, fuckers, right? But no, you didn't. You bought this for maybe $3, $4, or $5, all right? And then when you get the 4K, all right, you're going to just resell this for $3 or $4 or $5, right? So you're not really losing any money. And then the 4K comes out, and let's say I don't want this movie in my collection anymore. Well, you bought the 4K used, right? Maybe you spent $10 on it, right? And well, you're going to sell it for $10, right? So you're not going to lose any money, really. And maybe if you spent like $10 on the Blu-ray at the time, used $10 was a good price for a Blu-ray, but now it's $5 is what the Blu-rays are going for. Well, then you lose a bit of money, right? But you're not losing like $40 or $35 or whatever because of it. You may be losing a couple of dollars, right? So, and usually when you buy something, you can resell it for the price. If it's used, you can resell it for the price that you bought it for. So you're not really losing any money. If I buy something for $5, I know I can probably sell it for $5. Unless it's something that I'm really interested in, but nobody else is really interested in it, then no, I gotta, take the loss or whatever. But a lot of the stuff when you buy used, you're gonna be able to sell it when you don't want it anymore for the same price that you bought it for, right? All right. So it's when you buy it new, and then once you buy it new, you watch it, it's now used. So you may have paid $60 for it, but nobody's going to buy it for $60 off of you, even if it looks brand new. All right. Once you buy it and it leaves the store, it's like a car; it loses its price, right? So, excuse me. So you buy it for 60, you sell it for 30. Well, why not wait, look around, and maybe eventually you'll end up finding you're not going to get everything that you want, but eventually you're going to get mostly everything you want, right? And you're going to be picking it up for, let's say, $30. And then when you sell it, because you don't want it anymore, you're going to sell it for $30, right? So you're not really losing much money, all right? So that takes care of that thing when it comes to it being too expensive, or when you buy a Blu-ray and then a 4K comes out and you just wasted all that money. Now, one thing my system does, it doesn't do anything for FOMO, right? So if you fear of missing out, um, well, I never had that problem. When I see something, when I see it's too many times that I see a really nice Blu-ray of something from one company, and then like a year later they put out a 4K of it, or maybe originally it came out on a DVD, and then the one boutique label puts it out on a Blu-ray, and then they lose the rights to it, and then another company picks up that and puts it out on a Blu-ray as well. You know what I mean? Or maybe they had a Blu-ray in the UK or in Europe, and it didn't come out on Blu-ray in Canada, the United States. But people will import it, and then you end up finding it anyways, right? Um, so, but if you want something right away when it comes out and you're pre-ordering it because you're worried about FOMO, then that's nothing that this is going to solve. But if you mix that new buying in with the used buying, what happens is if you're reselling stuff, if you're picking it up for one price and selling it for a higher price, you will have the money to buy these things, right? There is like that. Like I said, I bought this one new. I'm going to watch this with a friend of mine, and it was like 40 something dollars. But I got that 40 something dollars because I sold a whole bunch of other stuff, right? And so it didn't really cost me any money. It just cost me time in putting up ads, right? So, but this system doesn't really help with FOMO, all right? If you really want the latest thing as quickly as possible, you're going to be spending a premium. So, and waiting for stuff to come in the mail. So you order it and then it comes 6 weeks later. And by the time you get it, you go, oh, yeah, I remember ordering that. You understand what I mean? It's like it kills the whole fun of the hobby. The fun of the hobby is going out and finding something and then going, oh, I really like this film. And you bring it home and you watch it, right? So, but you do it online and then maybe, if you order on Amazon, maybe a few days or whatever. But, in some places, if you're pre-ordering stuff, you're not going to get it for a month or whatever, right? So these packages come in and you don't even know what they are, right? And then you open them up. Oh, yeah, I remember ordering that, right? You know what I mean? Like, so it kind of takes some of the fun out of it. Well, if you're doing it used and you're going out to places, well, you're going to the brick and mortar places again, but like I said, it's all used stuff, and you don't have to wait to get it. It's there, you buy it, right? So it's almost like the way people used to do it when they were buying new stuff, right? So that's how I do it. So basically, if you want to collect pretty much anything, and you don't want to spend any money on it or spend very little money on it, then you got to buy used. Don't worry about getting everything right away. If you want to spend less money, then when you're out looking for stuff to add to your collection and you see stuff that maybe you don't want to put in your collection, but it can resell it because it's low. You bought it for a low price, you can sell it for a higher price. You don't mind, spending the time putting up ads or whatever. You like an ad on Facebook Marketplace, with the pictures and everything. Might take you maybe 10 minutes to put an ad up. So you can put up like 6 items or 10 items, whatever, in an hour. So you decide on that or not. But I do that because I have time. I like it. So it's like when you do something that you like, it's not really like work, right? So anyway, so that's what I do. I have no stress in my collecting. When I have money, I spend it. So let's say tomorrow somebody decides to come and buy a bunch of stuff off me, and now I have $30 or $40, and I'll go out and go to the thrift stores, go look on Facebook Marketplace for stuff I maybe want to buy, and then I just use that money to buy stuff. So basically, it doesn't really cost me anything. And plus, then, if I want to sell all this, it'll take years to sell it all, but if I sell it, all this stuff is worth money as well. So it's like you're not really losing money, and you're actually gaining money. So like you buy something for 2 and you sell it for 10, say, and now you have $8 and you buy an $8 movie. Well, that $8 that you earned is gone, but you have the movie, and if you decide to sell the movie, you get your $8 back, right? So it's like you're not losing any money at all, really, and you're gaining money if you end up actually selling the stuff that you're actually buying, right? So anyway, so like I said, I got a library of, maybe 400 or 500 LPs, like 6,000, 10,000 CDs, 6,000 movies. You know what I mean? I got like 1,000,000 baseball cards. So just it's fun. It's just trying to find the space now. Now it's more, I have everything that I want in movies. I'm just upgrading mostly. So whenever I come across a Blu-ray of a DVD that I have, then I'll upgrade it. Anytime I come across a 4K of a Blu-ray I have, then I'll upgrade it, right? So probably most of the purchasing now, probably about 75% of all the purchasing that I'm not purchasing to resell, that I'm adding to my collection, are basically just upgrades. So mostly from DVD to Blu-ray. Probably, like half my collection is still DVD. So, but like I said, it's slowly moving towards Blu-rays. So anyways, all right. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Maybe you have some tips for me. I don't know. Maybe I'm not thinking of something. But like I said, if you want to do it stress-free, or it doesn't cost you any money, just some time, right? But that's the whole point, is you put time into your hobby because you enjoy it, right? Then what I'm saying to you is probably the best way of doing it. You get to spend time wandering around and picking stuff up. You have to spend some time on the computer, putting up ads. And then you get to, when you come across stuff that you want to buy, you can just buy it because you've sold other stuff, right? So, but like I said, there is some time involved when it comes to selling stuff. So you have to realize that. And if you think putting up ads and then people come into your house to buy stuff, and or traveling to their place to deliver it to them or whatever, that kind of thing, if that seems to be like a job to you and you wouldn't enjoy doing something like that, then basically I would just stick to buying used stuff and not selling anything, or every once in a while buying something new. But anyways, let you decide. It's your hobby, but I'm just giving you a way of relieving any of the stress of collecting, right? Well, most of it anyways. But if you have the money and you want to buy stuff new, but it's stressing you out, I'm not sure why you're in the hobby in this. And maybe you need to try something else, or maybe you need to, cull your library into a more manageable form, and maybe learn how to, just pass things over. Well, I don't really need that. I know a friend of mine, what he did was, I'll leave you with this and then I'll end. What he did was he was collecting stuff, and he was going, man, I got too much stuff. In my whole life, I'm never going to watch all this stuff, right? So then he just took out all the movies that he really enjoys watching more than once, over and over. Like maybe like 3 weeks from now, he'll get an urge to watch this movie, so he'll watch it, right? But then he has a whole bunch of other movies that he might watch once every 5 years or something. He said, I don't need those movies. So what he did was he just culled his collection, like got rid of like, I don't know, 75, 80% of his collection. And what he did is he said to himself, the only time I'm ever going to buy a movie, I'm going to still do it, right? But I'm going to watch that movie before I buy another movie, all right? So he'll go out and you can speculate and watch whatever movie you want to watch, and maybe you go out and you find something that looks interesting, so you bring it home and you watch it. But before you buy anything else, you watch that, right? And that basically, put his budget like in the black, like hugely, right? He was in the red before buying all this stuff, and then he just stopped doing it. And he said, you know what? When I buy a movie, I'm going to watch it before I buy another movie, right? So he may go out in a given day and buy maybe 5 or 6 movies because he's going around to wherever he's going around, but he won't buy any more after he does that. Until he watches those 5 or 6 movies, and once he watches those 5 or 6 movies, he'll go out hunting for some more movies or whatever, right? So that will really limit the amount of money that you spend, and maybe you can even just buy new if you're going to do it that way, right? If you're going to do it that way, yeah, I mean, depending on how much time you like to sit down and watch movies, you know what I mean? You can get like 3 movies a week and watch 3 or 4 movies a week, and not blow a whole bunch of money on it, right? But anyways, I prefer to be able to have a whole bunch of movies that I haven't seen and then just go up to the shelf and, maybe I'll watch this because I haven't seen this before, and pick it out and put it up. But a lot of the collecting has nothing to do with the actual item that you're collecting. It's actual collecting itself that is the fun, right? If you have baseball cards and you have like 500 in a series and you're going around collecting the baseball cards, you may put them in a box, right, while you're collecting them, and you're not pulling them out every day and looking at the baseball cards. You're collecting them because it's like a numbering system. It's like an accomplishment to get them all, right? Even once you get them all, then you take a look over and then you put them away and then you go collect something else, right? You understand? So the collecting itself is a joy in itself. It doesn't really matter what you're actually collecting, right? So when a person says, if you collect books and the person says, have you read all the books that you've collected? You're going to look at them like they're weird because they don't understand what collecting is, right? You understand what I mean? And if you have a whole bunch of movies and have you watched all these movies? And you're going to look at them strange and go, yeah, but that's not the point of collecting as much as, the fun of collecting, to go buy stuff and sort it out and be around it and everything. And then you pull a movie out when you want to watch it or whatever. It doesn't mean you have to watch every movie that's in your collection, right? But like I said, my buddy, he like changed his whole way of thinking because he was spending way too much money, and he's going, yeah, this isn't enjoyable anymore. It just costs too much money. So he said, I'm only going to buy a movie, and once I buy it, I need to watch it before I buy another movie. And man, that cut down his spending like big time. So if you want to do that, that's a way to go as well, right? All right. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave me a thumbs up. Think about subscribing. This is what I do. For videos on the Ignorant Intellectual on media, you'll see me collecting stuff, and I'll show you the stuff that I found in the thrift stores and everything, and give some tips on what sells and what doesn't occasionally, and then I will watch stuff, and then the next video when I'll mention what I've watched and do some reviews on that as well. So it's kind of a mixed bag kind of thing, but it's quite enjoyable to watch. At least maybe I'm a narcissistic or something, but when I watch my videos, they seem kind of enjoyable. So anyways, all right. So you take care, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now.